Hi everybody, I'm Bill Sanders and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today what I want to talk about is this incident. I was getting a haircut and my barber told me that she wanted to get a present for her boyfriend. And I said, and she wanted to get him a watch. He's into watches apparently. And she told me the kind of watches that she knew about she had. And that gave me a pretty good idea of the kind of watch that he'd be collecting. And then I said, well, how much did you want to spend on it? And she said around $500. And I thought, okay, can I recommend a watch for around $500? And the answer is yes. There are lots of watches. And so I thought what I'd do is I'd pick my favorite watch that I recommend for that price. And then also take a look at, it's a Swiss watch, and then take a look at some Japanese watches and also some German watches that I think are good watches for under $500. So let's take a look and I'll tell you what I have and why. Now, the first one, my favorite, I've recommended this before, is the Tissot Heritage Petite Seconde. I don't think that's in production anymore, but there are lots of them around. This watch originally with the MSRP was $995, and I found one for $389, discounted, brand new at Joma Shop. And a lot of these a lot of different places that have them. That was the best thing I found when I looked for them. And the movement in it is an ETA 6498-1. The -1 is very important. The -1 is 18,000 semi-oscillations per hour. The -2 is 21,600 semi-oscillations per hour. Now that's the 18,000 is 2.5 hertz and 21,600 is 3 hertz. Now probably you may know that I would say the majority of watches tend to be around 4 hertz. Some watches, especially Zenith, likes to make them faster, around 5 hertz. But for a lot of reasons, I like the ones with the lower semi-oscillations per hour. And I'll talk about that in a second. Now, in looking at this watch, you might, like, it doesn't look like much. But one thing that I was thinking that you could do, take a look at the band. Now, on this particular picture that I have, it shows the size of the band at the bottom of being 2018. And if you don't know what that means, I'll tell you really quickly. The top is wider. This is the one that goes onto the lugs. And in this particular case, it was 20 millimeters. And then it tapers down to 18. So at the tip down here, it's 18 millimeters. And you'll see that in a lot of watches. They'll have the higher number is at the lugs and then down here. Now this one is unusual because this one is for set up for 3 lugs. Most of them, they don't have this little thing in the middle like that. Okay, so in looking at that, you can transform a watch totally by putting on different bands. So here's the same watch. And what I did is that I took a look at some bands at a company called Panatime.com. Panatime used to make watch bands, I think, for Panerai or primarily Panerai, but then they started making them for everybody. And I've got some watch bands from them, and they're good, what I call sort of everyday bands. Now, the particular ones that I selected here, they're leather bands, and they have a gator stamp on it. The reason that you might find that important, if you import anything with a watch band on it, you're likely to run into CITES. And CITES is the organization that makes sure that you're not smuggling endangered species. So if you have a leather watch, a cowhide watch with a stamp on it of some endangered species, that's fine. Just can't be the endangered species. Now these two, I just tried on, just picked a couple at random in tan or black. And they were 45 bucks each. And so you can really, but you can see how much they can really transform a watch. The other thing, a lot of people don't like anything out of animal hides, and there are lots of different textile straps, and one's made of rubber and also some kind of synthetic of some sort. So if that's concern to you, you can find some other one. Now, the thing that I like the most about it is that you don't find too many inexpensive watches with 18,000 semi-oscillations per hour. It's also known as VPH, but semi-oscillations per hour I think is a little more descriptive, because what semi-oscillation is when your balance wheel, it goes like this. That's one oscillation, then another oscillation. I think their oscillations about 260 degrees, something like that. So it's a semi-oscillation. Now, what is the advantage of having a lower frequency? Well, there's less wear and tear on your movement. That's for one thing, which means there's a longer time between services, and you have a greater power reserve. But the thing that really impressed me was I noticed that among the top watchmakers, they had lower rates. Their watches either ran at 18,000 VPH or 21,600. Very few of them ran at 4 hertz. Some do, but in fact, probably a lot do. But your very tip-top ones, this H. Moser Streamliner Perpetual Calendar, this is one of the finalists in the this year's Grand Prix. The Langenheim Caliber 8, in fact, I think all of Langenheim watches run at 18,000 or less. The Akriva Chronomet Contemporain, this one won the men's award a few years ago. And Woutenlanen, the GQ. I think just about all of Woutenlanen's are 2.5 hertz or 18,000. So it's something that, besides just the practical things about it. Now, you might say, well, are they as accurate? And the answer, if they're done right, yes. All right, but if they're not done right, they're not. Okay, so that's one watch that I really like, the Tissot Petite Seconde with the ETA, or the Unitas ETA 6498-1. I always mix those up. 6498-1. There's also a -2. The -2 runs at 3 hertz. So either one of them, but this watch, the ones I like the best are the slower ones. Okay, now these, by the way, too, 389 is, I mean, a really nice discount on this watch. So you get more than just something that, there's an inexpensive watch, and I think that this Tissot's an inexpensive watch, and then you get the cheap watches, and I don't see it as a cheap watch, but inexpensive. Okay, moving right along. The next one, and I have one of these, and I love it, is the Seiko 5. This particular one is in the military blue. It has a textile band to it. And this watch, like I said, I have one, and they're a little small. But the 5 in the Seiko 5, they're two very different definitions of it. This was first designed in 1963, and it's still in use today. Mine I got for a field watch. In other words, when I do yard work, the Seiko 5 gets to come along. But this is a great little watch. Here are 5 things that it was the first with. The Diaflex mainspring, the Dia-Shock system, which is a shock absorber system, automatic winding, day-date indication, and water resistance. Now, this is what most people use when they say, well, this is what the 5 of the Seiko 5, these are the 5 first. But Seiko says, no, it's this. Automatic winding, which they have, day-date displayed in a single window, water resistance, recessed crown at 4 o'clock. Now, that is nice when you think about it, because here's a regular crown at 3 o'clock. And yeah, a little easier to either pump into your wrist or to hit something with it. So anyway, that was sort of nice. I like that. And finally, a durable case and bracelet, water resistant, $115. So here you have a nice one with it's a Seiko movement. It's a nice little watch, $115. Now, one that is a lot nicer, I guess, is the Seiko, what's called the Seiko Turtle Prospect. Prospect, I believe, just came out not too many years ago. Now, this one's a diver, and it comes on a rubber strap, and it can actually be used in diving. Now, the caliber 4R36 is one I like because the 4R, at some point, Seiko was thinking, well, we're going to get into sort of an affordable high horology. And they came out with the 4R. When they first did, the Seiko buyers weren't too happy with it because they were used to much lower prices with the Seiko with their standard movement in it. And so, but they left it there anyway. And this one is the 4R36 automatic. And here you have 21600. Again, you got 3 hertz instead of 4 or 5. So you're in with where most of your top watches. Take a look at the Grand Prix finalists, and you'll see most of them are 3 hertz, 21,600. It's got a day date, hours, minutes, and seconds. It's called the Turtle because of the case. It's sort of this turtle-shaped case, but this is a very nice watch. I found it at Long Island Watch for $372, which to me sounds like a nice deal for a very nice watch. Now, the final group of watches I want to take a look at are a couple, three, I guess, German watches. This one I found that really didn't know too much about, but I really like the looks of the watch. They just look nice. It's got a power reserve indicator, and that can be tricky when you're dealing with an automatic watch because you're going along and your power reserve indicator shows that you're down, and then you look at it again and it's up, and you're figuring, well, that's because you were moving. With a pure wind-up watch, they're really important to have a power reserve indicator. Okay, now this one is a German watch, and it has a Miyota 9133 movement, 4 hertz, but it does have a stop-second device. People call that hacking. That's a nice thing. That some people like it. It's automatic and hand winding. This is important. Like the original Seiko 5, you could only wind it with movement. And so to get it going, I have to go around like that and then set it and then go around like that some more. This one you can do both. Most of your good automatics, you can either hand wind or automatic. Usually, I like to give my automatics a wind of about 40 turns, and then I'll just pop it on and not worry about it because it's automatic and move around enough to keep it going. This one has 3 hands, a date, a power reserve indicator. Now this one has a mineral, crystal mineral cased cover to it. In other words, it's called a glass. The crystal is actually a crystal on this one. Most of the ones that are sapphire are not true crystals. They're simply sapphire glass. Anyway, so this was one. Now, this one I found on sale at a place called JustWatchMe.com for $4.99. Now, that's right at the edge of the $500. Now, a couple more I found that I really like is a company called Laco. Laco has what they call a caliber 21 that's based on a Miyota 8215, which is 3 hertz, 21,600 semi-oscillations per hour. And the two that I found, both of them were at Joma's shop. One on the left is called Valencia, and it's just, to me, it sort of looks like a good everyday watch, kind of watch you can, maybe wear to work, or just, where you don't have to get fancy, but you just want a nice watch and you can glance at and tell the time. Now, the one that's called the Osberg Blau Student is that shape of the dial is called a Flieger, more of like a pilot's watch. And this one has a textile, probably polyester or something like that on it. It could be cotton too. But anyway, this one was $409 at Joma Shop. And both of these watches by Laco are nice watches. I mean, you don't have to buy junk, to put it bluntly. It's important to know what you're getting in it. This Miyota, a lot of people sort of stick their nose up at Miyota because it's not as well finished or a lot of other things as I think it's owned by Seiko. And Seiko makes very good movements. So anyway, these are what I consider to be good, inexpensive watches. They're not cheap watches. They're just inexpensive, and there's a difference. And I think a lot of watch collectors, they don't want to spend a lot of money, or they don't have a lot of money to spend, or they have more sense than I have, which isn't a stretch in watch collection. And so here are a number of ones that I think are good, inexpensive watches. Let me know what you think. I'd be interested. This is one area that I don't have as much experience in as I'd like, but what I found I really like. Like to hear from you. This is an opportunity to subscribe if you'd like. Until next time, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection.